All right, chat. We're about to go live here with Brian Knappenberger, the director and filmmaker behind We Are Legion, a bunch of other films we love, like Internet's Own Boy, Nobody Speak. So without further ado, here comes live video. There we are. Hello, everyone. As I figured out how to, OBS still 4 months in. I don't know if you've ever tried to use OBS, but this tool too many things. And none of them seem to work the same the next time I run it. So
yeah, that's like all there.
It's all video editing to me. Like I open up, I do a lot of video editing for this when it goes up on YouTube and whatnot. And I use Final Cut Pro and then Apple Compressor. I have no idea what I'm doing. Just the defaults
Right.
seem to be working
Right.
for me.
It takes a while. It does.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah. So everybody, this is Brian. We met a while ago, for the filming of We Are Legion. And we actually got to hang out and do all that at DEF CON down in Vegas. But one of the funny stories that nobody knows about me being there in Vegas is that you had reached out and we couldn't really schedule a time for near me or near you because another documentary was filming a bunch of stuff on the exact same topics with a lot of the same people.
I vaguely remember all this, yeah.
Right? And so you reached out. I was like, I can't. I'm sorry. They're paying for my trip to DEF CON.
Right.
And so this other documentary paid for me to go to DEF CON. And we're there at DEF CON and hanging out and we're doing all the video shooting. And I end up with a bunch of free time because they got what they needed out of me in a couple days. And Brian has reached out for like the 5th time. And I've never met him before. The movie isn't out. Like, I have no idea who I'm dealing with at this point, right? Like, what do I know? There's 20 documentaries trying to be made.
Is that the first time I ever met you? That in Vegas?
That was the first time we met in person. The second shooting we did was away from there. But the funny thing about it was, I told you over the phone, like, I felt weird about filming for another documentary on this filmmaker's dime. But in the end, I just went and asked her, and she was like, "Yeah, sure, go do it." So a different documentarian paid for me to go hang out with Brian at DEF CON, and then that movie never got made. The other one.
Yeah, I was going to ask if that. I remember that story, but I don't remember.
They've got hundreds of hours of all kinds of hackers from that time period and whatnot, and no film ever came out.
Wow, interesting. That was a wild time. Yeah, I remember we just kind of, holed up in a hotel room close to the conference and just talked to people throughout that whole conference, and that was a big shoot for us. That was we met a lot of people there. Yeah, that was a year that everybody was really fired up about some of the activism and everything. I mean, it seems like every year at DEF CON there's something sort of big, but that year it was a lot of people were talking about anonymous and activism and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, in the chat, if you bring up Twitch, you can see the chat if you're on my channel, but make sure you mute it if you do. The chat are saying all kinds of things to you.
They are.
Yeah. Kurt Tanner says, "Hi Brian, remember me?"
I do.
And Amanda Panda says, "Hi Brian, you met me once, but I doubt you remember."
I'm sure I did.
And you did. She's awesome. So definitely the chat is a thing here, and I'll read out any that I see if you don't notice some specific ones. But the question I have is, like, I knew why I thought the subject matter was great, but you really put together what I think is an amazing film with We Are Legion, and I've always wondered, like, I never just outright asked you, like, what got you to go down, like, because you did a lot of work on that, like, just the video editing alone and the sound design. Like, this isn't just like some film in a hotel room of a bunch of hackers, right? Like, this is an awesome movie. Like, I love it.
Well, thanks. Yeah, no, I mean, I was just fascinated by what was going on with, I was following those early, movements. I was following some of those early actions. I was paying attention to all the Scientology stuff. I was just curious about that. I was just, really just interested in kind of understanding more about what was going on. Because it definitely seemed like something was happening and it was interesting, and I just kind of wanted to dive in. I mean, it's not that much more than that. I mean, I've been interested in internet communities and digital rights and stuff for forever, and I was working on a series that was pretty heavily tech based right before that.
Yep.
And I was myself experiencing probably, I guess the deeper answer to your question is that I was experiencing, if you go way back, I was kind of a techno utopian type. Like I was pretty into the internet. Had high hopes for the internet and its ability to spread democracy and do good things and freedom of information and
then we lost MySpace and it was all over.
Yeah, exactly. But around that time, this better, as well as anyone. I mean, it was starting to be clear that some of this stuff could have a much darker side to it, and I was just curious about that. One of the first things that really got me was the Iranian revolution, Twitter, the Green Revolution. They called it the Twitter Revolution, right? And that seemed so empowering and so amazing and so incredible. And then you realized that the government was using some of the same tools that people were using to organize. They were using them to find them and go after them. And some sort of light bulb went off there for me. And so I think that's the mindset I was in at that period.
I mean, the Green Revolution was really interesting for us, including a couple people who are in the chat, because, we ran, I ran .ywprotest.net, which was a forum that they were using, that we had various secure ways for them to get to, and tunnels and proxies and all kinds of stuff. So a lot of them, we had brought in an Iranian moderator, so, they could actually deal with the language problem and everything, because none of us spoke it. And we got even, like, the Pirate Bay changed their logo on their front page to a green pirate ship. And when you clicked on the and you've seen the Pirate Bay, the logo was like half of the page at that point. When you clicked on the ship, it took you to the Iran.ywprotest.net site that was helping to kind of manage what they were doing over there. And that was definitely an interesting kind of first taste of using the platforms and the skill sets that we were building for a country trying to do that. I mean, I think it was much more successful in Tunisia, later on. But at that moment it was, that was our first, time doing that stuff too. Definitely shout outs to Broke P on that one. That was good. I mean, a couple other people there too also pushed for it, but it was good times. And I will say this, because I just like repeating this whenever the subject comes up. We had sites the size of that changing their logos. We had sites bigger than that changing their logos, putting up a big banner, doing pop-ups for the Greenwave that was sending the traffic to all these people, because we had like the real organizers from on the ground there in these places helping to organize, right? And Moot would not do anything on 4chan for us. And I felt like, that's just what I wanted at that point, to watch someone take just 4chan offline. Like I didn't ask for it, so nothing happened. But like I was just, yeah. But anyways, that's a whole personal thing. Me and him might not get along.
But I think you gotta, rewind back to that period of time in which, now those sorts of things, changing home pages and putting up little pop-ups and little entry colors and little simple sort of indications like that you're down with the cause.
Now it's normal.
Nowadays that's a thing, but that was all being built and dreamed up and thought up back then. It felt like. I mean, maybe it was a little before that, but
right.
That stuff with that idea was starting to incubate, and that was fascinating.
It was. I mean, now we have like Fight for the Future and Save the Net, and those groups like Evan Greer and all them who just make a site really quickly, and then here's the little JavaScript you add, and boom, you're in.
Yeah.
We didn't have any of that. We were just asking kindly. Could you do something on your own?
Right.
I mean, we did have a couple artists doing some Photoshop, but I mean, Iran, so that's a good entry point for kind of, what's going on there. So early on when we were talking, one of the things that you had asked for was, how to contact a couple people, and I knew you were kind of hopping from person to person as you got someone to talk to you, right? Yeah. How hard was it to, like, find people to talk to besides, obviously, like, the public one like me, like, did you struggle to find some of the people you wanted to talk with?
Yes, both in convincing them to talk to me, right, because of the obvious desire for anonymity, especially if they were doing something slightly questionable.
Yep.
And so the conversation becomes, how do you get them to trust me? How do you trust more than anything, right? And then trust for me too. Is this person really someone I think, like I had to kind of...
It's hard to navigate that, especially back then.
Yeah. Right. Like I had to do my extra little due diligence to make
Yep.
sure, like, is this person really who they say they are?
Right.
Were they involved with this? What was happening? So it was kind of it was a little bit of a dance there until you kind of found people. But you know, I mean, it was great. I mean, it was amazing. I found lots of people from that film I still talk to and hang out, you know.
We had a really good panel for South by Southwest on that film. That was a lot of fun.
That was fun, actually.
One of the things that annoyed me the most, and completely unrelated to all of this, was I take very bad pictures. I'm just not, like, I don't know how to look at the camera right. So, like, you know, all of my actual face shots are because people have shot in really high quality film, and I can find that one still where it just works, right? So, like, there were some photos that I really liked of me and you at South by. They're all owned by Getty. They're all, like, I asked for them, and they want, like, $600 for the version that I want. And it was just killing me. I'm like, these pictures are of me, of you, and nope, nope, someone owns them.
That's a whole nother thing.
Can't get a deal on it, nothing.
Yeah. Can I? No.
Who knows? I mean, right? Like, but I have them now, but like, it took a little bit of work to get to them, and it shouldn't have, you know? Oh, look at this hype train. Thanks, everybody.
What?
People subscribing, following. Basically, these people in chat here make sure I get to keep eating. That's what's going on here.
Hydrate. Yeah.
My grocery store runs come from chat. Nice. You know, it's good times. I love it. Sometimes they'll send me like tips, like through Venmo or something, and they'll specifically say, for food, order pizza. You know. So
right. You're falling off. Get some food in.
Right? Yeah. Like they'll see me like getting, and they'll like, where's the pizza? You know, so
yeah.
But you saw I ate dinner right beforehand as we were initially talking. So you ended up finding most people, but I remember one of the things that we went through that even Barrett went through a little was, you know, we had to talk about a lot of stuff off the record. We had to talk about stuff that, like, so you could have some understanding of an event, but without us outing someone, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And one of those people that I danced around a lot early on, and I never brought up, I made sure to, was Kurt Tanner, you know? When we talk about that word founder and that word spokesperson, it was really tough to figure things out around that word because, one, the news, like the New York Times had printed, like, founder of Anonymous with my damn name, and I told them not to. They even asked if they could, and I said no, and they still did it. So, like, thanks, guys. But, you know, so we danced around this idea that I was there were some other people earlier, you know, did that kind of a dance, but, you know, in reality, like, it's been really great the last few months having Kurt Tanner around because, like, now I get to tell some of those other stories. And there's a lot of things that I wish were in We Are Legion if only Kurt Tanner had been public at the time. And there are good reasons why Kurt Tanner was not. Very good reasons. However, you know, I would love at some point to have some of those stories done at that quality level. I don't know what that looks like, but that would be interesting.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. Yeah, he actually reached out, I think, on Twitter, and we got this thing started to click a little.
Yeah, so, he had said you guys talked, but I don't know, you know, what went on there.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating. I mean, that's the thing about that that film, that it still feels vibrant to me. You know, I'm very proud of that film, and it's still done a lot since then. But it still sort of sticks out as something that's like that. You know, that you can constantly go back to, and you can kind of reference how things have shifted and changed. It almost feels like a sort of snapshot of how things were back then. But things have changed and evolved in all sorts of ways, and some that were, I think, foretold by some of the digital activists of that time.
Yep.
And some caught them by surprise, I think. And so it's just hard to. It's just, to me, it's fascinating to keep looking back at that period of time because it was such a kind of big roots of a lot of things that we're dealing with now.
Well, when we talk about like the beginning stuff with Anonymous and Occupy and all those kind of pieces of it, even like the Arab Spring, like a lot of the stuff that gets mentioned or covered in some way there, you know, none of us involved in kind of organizing all of that or like making, or, you know, even from like making just the logos or like all the way up to making the videos or actually organizing none of us had any clue what was being built. It was all about like, this is the next step. And so we took it, You know, we had this talk about how accidental almost everything I did was. You know, it was just, that's how it was. But looking back, I do kind of see the bigger picture of some of the stuff that now is normal, you know, that came out of the stuff we did. So I was really happy that that your film captured a lot of that, you know, just you still have, you did me like two of the best solids ever of any filmmaker. Like I've been in front of the camera way too many damn times in my life, and you did me the best at it ever. And this is, every time I tell people I just to watch the film or any I know they're about to for the first time, I say just wait for that moment when the editor shows that he really liked me, and half the time they can catch it. And do you know the one I'm talking about?
I'm not sure what you're. No.
It's the one where I call Aaron Barr a moron, and then it jump cuts straight to Aaron Barr going, and I'm just like, thank you for that. That was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes you make a lot of decisions in the cut. Let's put it that way.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
Barr is a moron. Yes, chat. Yes, Dev.
I don't know, the early's not. Oh, it's funny. I see all this.
Yeah.
No, it's just such a fascinating time. I mean, I think a lot about it. You know, it just it's so interesting to see how some of that relate to where we are now with it, and not to get serious, but like even you think a lot about
Get as serious as you want.
hate, hate groups and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And sort of the way that those early sort of 4chan groups and everything, and how it's just, I'm endlessly fascinated with how all of that kind of splintered out, and what those it's like at that period it was all clear, right? But we just didn't, it was all there, let's put it that way, but it was hard to understand where it was going, or what was happening,
right?
But hate is one of the things that I've thought a lot about, like, since then.
Well, we've had a lot of good conversations, especially with Cortana, about that being, one of those people who really helped kind of make Chan culture, and kind of build out, those Chans, and was really central to all of that. And about what both him and I kind of feel about that. There's definitely a strong PTSD on his side of it. And for me, it's more missed opportunities of noticing these things growing in a way that maybe could have been addressed sooner before they became what they are now. When you look at like the thing that we had a really long conversation about off stream and then some on was /poll on 4chan and on some others, but like that kind of breeding ground where there were a ton of people there just being edgelords to be edgelords. Like there were people saying horribly racist shit or like denying the genocide, but they weren't doing it because they believed any of that. They were doing it just to shitpost. They were just doing it because like you were shitting up the place. That was the goal of the place, and anyone who survived it, then they could stick around. That was kind of like the ethos of the entire kind of like /poll there. That's how it worked, right? /B to a lesser extent, but it was more about like other things, but the same style. But that environment bred this group of people who were doing that for their own fun, and for the most part, a lot of them not actually believing any of it, but other people saw it going on and came over, didn't get the joke, thought they had found their people, and started interacting. Everyone else just sees another person playing along, and over time, more of the actual bad guys show up, and less of the older people who are still, obviously making some huge mistakes in their life. If any of these old posts ever get tied to their real identity, like that's like Twitter style canceling right there, but that bred this ground where then the older ones left because it was just getting too bad, and
the only
slowly
thing that remained was the hate.
And then there's this giant hate-filled forum of people who feel very welcomed and are generating good, better revenue than a lot of the other pages on that website, not good revenue. You don't make good revenue with a Chan. Like, there aren't many advertisers who want to be on your site,
Right.
But, so we had that conversation, and I think, you're really right about, like, a lot of that early stuff, while it did kind of come up with some plans, some, some sketches of how you do activism based on online, how do you start there and move it to real life, but, it also, everywhere where that came out of, those petri dishes of ideas, the other thing came out of too, and we end up with
Yeah.
QAnon, and we end up with Capitol riots, and we end up
No,
with...
exactly. I think that's exactly right.
Yeah.
I mean, because I think you can look at some of the, I think you can legitimately look at some of those groups and activity that came out of, that was born out of 4chan and other chans, and you can draw a line to things like Occupy, right, and progressive movements.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a legitimate thing to say, but the hate was always kind of gurgling under the surface, and there was a tendency to kind of look past it or something, and I guess to state the obvious, as a figure like Weave, right, who who's just looked at by an embarrassingly huge number of people as a kind of digital rights
one of us
celebrity du jour. And
we all regret it.
That's true. There's some legitimacy to, you shouldn't have gone to jail for CFAA, overreach and all that stuff. But there really was a willingness to say, look, this guy is pushing the boundaries of hate speech as a way of, protecting speech, right? He's just trolling.
Yeah.
All of this isn't real. He's not a white nationalist. And the whole time, I mean, he is a neo-Nazi. He is a natural white nationalist.
Turns out he is.
Absolutely evil. And that little trick that basically defines the Trump years. I mean, this notion that you can say these things, that you can push the boundary, these kind of awful things, that you can say that, and that what you're really doing is you're protecting speech. I mean, that's the Milo thing, that's the Trump thing, that's the whole thing now. And it feels like that was incubated, that idea was incubated back then. And an a huge number of people saw it and kind of looked the other way and didn't call bullshit on it.
Quite a lot of us, and I say us because we were all there. There are other documentaries that show me standing next to him at a point when we were fighting those fights, and now he is the co-administrator and guy who runs Daily Stormer. Yeah. And I mean,
the other thing though is that element is funny. I was reading, Joseph Menn, his book, The Cult of the Dead Cow, about Cult of the Dead Cow.
Yep.
And early on with that sort of thing was there too. I mean, white supremacist groups, extremist groups were some of the first to go online. I think in some of those early boards and stuff. So
the Stormfront board was gigantic, very, very early.
Yeah, and there's actually members of the Cult of the Dead Cow who were trying to call them out and trying to trick them and stuff. In fact, one of the ones that's notorious for this turned out to be Beto O'Rourke.
Yeah, psychedelic warlord.
So it's been there for
I remember his fan fiction well.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, it is. I look back at that and think, and I'm actually working on a little bit of a thing now where you're sort of tracing the other side of that a little bit.
Okay. So I mean, I know you're working on a few new projects, but some you can talk about, some you can't. Obviously, there's all kinds of scheduling things about that and people lining up and whatever, right? But let's, after you do We Are Legion and we have all that fun. I mean, we packed the house at South by Southwest. Like the main floor, the front row was full of all these big names. Like it was crazy. Standing up there answering those questions afterward, and after that you move on to The Internet's Own Boy, and you cover Aaron Swartz, and that's, I mean, same area in that what he was doing, freedom, all that kind of, a lot comes up, and a friend, I mean, so like I see that, but a very different like tone. Yeah. Like, that is I just want to ask, like, on an almost kind of personal level, was that a hard film to make? Like, how tough was that on you? Like, it
was harder and more personal, for sure, and more emotional. I remember I had a friend of mine, another filmmaker that I'd worked with, who had committed suicide right around that period of time. Mm-hmm. And I remember first talking with Aaron's dad, and just having a fairly long conversation. Right before I started making the film, I was going to see if he would do an interview with me. And just feeling pretty, and by the way, I had just had a son at that point too, and so it was this real, something very intense happening there, where it's like you're talking to the dad of somebody who just committed suicide, your friend had just committed suicide. So it was a very, yeah, I mean, that's a very different time. I mean, on a bigger picture, that's a personal level. On a bigger picture sense, there was I think a crackdown against that kind of activism beginning to happen in that period. That was just that just felt different than, the community was shifting a little bit.
And now, I mean, I don't know if you followed a lot of the people from those stories anymore, but are you still in contact with many people from those?
Yeah.
I mean, that makes me happy on one front, but there's a lot of us who no longer talk to people even from that one because of Weave.
Yeah, I mean, he was. I was never. I'd been to parties with him and stuff. I never quite bought into him. Hard to say.
Right.
It was interesting, and I never interviewed him or anything. He's never been.
Oh yeah. No, it wasn't about that. It's just there's people in that film that now like have come out during this time period where we are right now and said, well, yeah, but he's still a friend of mine. I'm not going to lose a friend over this.
Well, that's true. That's
and that just so there's a lot of there's still a lot going on in those stories in our world, you know.
Yeah, there's lines you can't.
Yeah,
I mean he's so far gone, and that's something that we have to just culturally fight. So
yeah,
and it's reared its head in such an ugly way in the last couple of years.
Yeah,
it's become so obvious in the last few years how bad that.
I think he just found that by all means he has the beliefs, but I also think he just found that that's where his money was too. I mean, we know that $500,000 in Bitcoin at the point that it was done before the bigger spike that just happened. Ended up at the Daily Stormer over the last couple of years. A lot of it from a French man who then killed himself right after sending it. So I personally think we've just saw the money on that side and started focusing more on it.
Yeah, he's also a neo-Nazi.
Oh yeah. I'm just saying, like, he had every ability to do 100 things with being a neo-Nazi. Choosing to run that website specifically, I think, is because he found the money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
and thanks for that. By the way, chat, it's time. It's that time of the show where the word has come up. And every day is Punch a Nazi Day. So happy Punch a Nazi Day, chat.
Pull up the pull up the Richard Spencer video with the We Will Rock You stuff.
Oh, it's a beautiful thing. Yeah, so that was another one of those stories with Aaron where we all knew it locally, before the downfall there. I mean, even only upwards of a couple of months. It was maybe 3 months, 4 months. We were in a bar in Boston, sitting there talking about another thing that needed to happen. And the one thing I remember about him compared to everyone else is all of us getting in a room together. Like, there were 10 of us sitting at a big table, chatting about this thing we needed to get done. And all of our various skill sets needing to come into it. But everyone kept breaking off and talking about, this thing, or you want to go see this movie next weekend. None of that from Aaron. Every 10 minutes, all right, everyone, back on point. He was making, shut up, stop talking about the movie. Yeah, that's not, and he was so on point. When you look at the stuff that he got done, before that, Creative Commons was already done. RSS was out there in the world, demand progress. All these things that he was involved with and really instrumental in, even early programming on Reddit. When I look back at the amount of stuff he did, it all made complete sense sitting there at the table with him. Because you weren't allowed to talk about anything but the point of the meeting. He's
focused.
The focus was crazy, though. And it wasn't rude, but you could see that look of disapproval every time you lost the train of thought there.
The sense that there's only so much time, and you have to do it. You have to move quickly and do the right thing. Yeah, no, that's in him. I think the other thing, I think, to really kind of understand him as a figure, it's almost another one of these situations where you have to kind of roll back and be in the mindset of that time frame too, because very early on, he just had this kind of deep civic responsibility or something. He had a sense of an awareness, a civic kind of awareness of public, what was in the public good, what was that, and that was combined with this deep technical expertise, right? So really had both of those in a very sort of deep and sophisticated ways, and was then able to see how these things were combining, right? The way we live our lives and the kind of sort of more quote unquote traditional values we might have of what's in the public sphere, what of information or how we communicate and all of this stuff, how that would make its way into this new world. I mean, he knew both of those things really well and seemed focused on it. I mean, I'm always amazed that I think they sold Reddit to Condé Nast. He became like a millionaire or something at age 19. And the first job he has after that is just as I think an unpaid intern at Alan Grayson's office in Congress. So
he just wanted to get shit done.
That shows you his mindset.
He well, one of my favorite conversations I ever had with him was it wasn't even like political in the sense that it wasn't about like the president or something, but it was the freedom of information itself. So like with RSS, what was the goal? Why did he want data to be so easily transferred between things and the notifications and all that? And his thoughts on the new upcoming stuff like Activity Pub and pub subsystems, and just talking about how he wanted everything that was published on the internet in any way to be programmatically accessible, and have a licensing scheme so the programming could know whether it was allowed to, and all like the stuff that he started doing with Creative Commons, just all of that tying together. Like he had this vision where the entire internet was programmatically accessible from one library that he was going to make. And when he would describe this thing to you, it was a miracle that you knew wouldn't happen, because so many ingrained interests want their walled gardens and don't want you getting access to their data in that way. And in the end, we ended up with a lot of interesting tools with the types of APIs we have now with JSON and all these other tools, but like he would have liked how much easier data is accessible these days than they were when he was starting to fight that battle.
Right, but what would he have made of the issues of disinformation and fake news and the ways that the election was interfered with and stuff? Like, what would he?
When I see NewsGuard, have you seen NewsGuard? The add-on for browsers that shows you the trustability of, shows you like the ratings and all that. Yeah. So he described a tool like that to us at one of those everyone getting drunk but me events. And like way back then, about how when someone shares something with you, can you expect the regular person to do all of the work to find out if, 1, that publication, 2, that author, 3, the intentions, the people quoted it, all the information you need to know about, is this reliable, is it trustworthy? And he was explaining systems that he wanted to develop for that before this was even this big of a problem. But he was that guy, so there were 5 million ideas coming out of his mouth a minute. So like, and I'm sure you heard that while you were making the film, but like he had a new idea that was like the $1 million idea like every week. I mean, don't you feel his absence in the last like 4, 5, 6 years? I mean, it's such a tragedy not to have that mind with us. I mean, not that he would have solved all our problems or anything, but other people had every skill he had, but not the drive and the specific focus he had on what he had. Like that combination.
I keep thinking about how, like, he made some comment about how if the Constitution were written today, it wouldn't have the post office and it'd have IP and internet and stuff, and of course that's true. If we had approached the modern world and the tools that we have with the same sort of principles that went into the thinking about the Constitution, the online world would be a very different place. And so. Somehow he understood that in 2008, 9. I mean, he was just so sort of clear about that stuff.
That was the other thing that was so great about him, his clarity of vision. He would see the path to it, and a lot of the other people like him that I know, because I know other people with the skill sets and with the general like drive to do something, but rarely do they finish. Does a product come out of the other side of it? And and you know how that is. I mean, I'm sure, nothing. I'm not saying anything about you, but I'm sure you have hours and hours, hundreds of hours, probably a video somewhere that isn't a movie yet, right?
Oh,
you know, every documentarian I know has libraries of them,
18
right?
projects, yeah.
He did
I'll
not.
have another by the end of tonight.
He had none of that. He had none of that. Like, his shit was just, here's the thing I'm working on right now. I will respond to the other projects, but this is my thing. Okay, it's done. Next. Like, he got shit done. And that was the biggest loss, because even afterward, when people like us would meet up here, we had a little group that had a specific name here in Boston that I'm not gonna out, but it was him, me, a bunch of other people like that. And those meetings only lasted about 2 months after his passing. He was really the driving force that kept us going and kept really everyone else driven. Like, it wasn't just that he wanted to get the shit done, it's that he could make you want to get the shit done. And I will admit this, it was kind of like he was shaming you simply by how much shit he was getting done with the amount of time he had spent. You know, he'd spend half the time and get twice done what you could with the same skill set. And he would look at you like, what are you doing? Like, you know, he wouldn't say it. He was the nicest, sweetest guy, but like, you were getting shamed a little by just how skilled he was and how productive he was.
Yeah, I get that.
And the group just fell apart when he went. And it was really sad. A lot of the projects ended up going on in another city, strange enough, and that city's reaped benefits from it. But it really sucked losing him. That was a really
tragic story. Really, it really is. You know, I feel honored to have made that film and been able to tell it.
I'm really glad you got such good access to everyone. I mean, I know what Noah was going through at that point, and it was all of it was not good times.
Yeah, so that's true.
Does anyone in chat have other? Aaron was the true 10Xer. I mean, in all honesty. Before we move on to anything else, does anyone have any other questions about that? You know, it was an amazing film. Another one, like, I haven't, it's rare because, like, I love documentaries, so I watch a lot of them, but because I go through so many of them, I do run into those bad ones. They're just out there. There are filmmakers who should get another job. Well, you know what I mean, though. I mean, it's true, right?
Yeah.
Like, what I've loved about yours is, honestly, the storytelling aspect of it. Like, just very few editors who are putting this stuff together like you do such beautiful transitions between scenes. Even, like, I'm lucky to see good-looking chyrons on half the documentaries I'm watching. Like,
right.
So all the anonymous stuff and the masks in it were great. I loved that. But that's been all of your films, and you've covered basically all of our life's work. Like, from going from there to Aaron to your next one, Nobody Speak, which is, again, free press. At that point when that came out, I was hanging out with Trevor Tim and Kevin Gallagher and all them and the others and John Cusack, like, out there, working with the free press. Meeting him because he was supporting the free press was crazy. I had no clue that, like, half of his residual checks are going to, like, charities supporting press freedoms. Like, who knew?
Yeah.
Right?
It's great. Yeah, it's great. He's been super supportive. It's amazing.
He's absolutely amazing. Yeah, and he's good friends with Alex Winter, and so, like, it's just kind of, there's this little circle of people like that who are just amazing people. But he's another one where I met in a way that now I kind of regret. I met him happily, but, like, the event itself I kind of regret now, because it was when Glenn Greenwald received his Polk Award.
Oh, right.
That night down in New York, he had a party, and it was like 30 of us in a room, and
Oh, I remember that. I think I might have been invited or didn't go.
Yeah.
I think
you were on the invite list, but I went there, and it was I was in New York because it was during the filming of Hacker Wars. And so I went there with like a bunch of Anons. Like, I reached out to Poitras first because it was at her place, and said, like, I want to bring like 5 or 6 people with me. Is that cool? And they were like, yeah, bring them all. And then I show up with Weave, and wow, what a party that turned out to be. Yeah. I really, really upset Chris Hayes at that party, which I am sad about because I didn't mean to.
Right.
I didn't mean to. But I met Cusack there for only like 5 minutes. But I left, right? The next morning, I wake up to a phone call from one of the other people from the party saying, John Cusack and John Perry Barlow are at this hotel and want to hang out today. And I'm like, yes, please.
Cool. Nice.
I'd never gotten to hang out with John Perry Barlow, But like in doing so, like it started. All these people started to connect, and a lot of it connected back to you, to Alex, to all these documentarians I know. There's like this really strong crew of these people out there doing this work. But you specifically have covered like literally at the point that you've covered the thing. That's the thing I'm working on. So I've loved watching all of your films. It's like I can just look back at them and they document it, very well. So. You did the Free Press one on Nobody Speaks, and what I always found funny was Alec Baldwin being in it, and funnier when he left Twitter, all the tweets announcing it coming out and talking about it with the press have him tagged, and now he's just no longer there.
Yeah. That's so funny. Yeah, we did a screening with Alec Baldwin one night. It was a wild night. It was it was a film festival in New York, and it was and we just did it and that was fascinating. We went to that was a wild night. We had a big dinner and met his wife and stuff too. So
whenever you see me looking this way, I'm reading the chat.
Right.
Catching up. That sounds like a wild party. I've never had too many conversations with him, but Billy Baldwin is freaking awesome. I love that guy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that guy's cool. I've never done the thing where I hop from one to the other brother, like I just know the one. Like I'm really good friends with Alex Winter, and I don't really know Keanu that well. But you kind of consider them almost brothers at this point, right?
Yeah.
I mean for the last 30 years, but still, so I know Billy really well and I don't know Alec.
Right.
But I've heard fun stories. And also the news has told us all kinds of fun stories.
Well, I got a little sense of that too, and I was that night, it was sort of in the middle of close to that. So that was a weird slice of history there.
It really was. So what was there a specific moment for Nobody Speaks? I mean, it was obviously right as Trump is becoming president and all this other fun stuff, but like, when did you start actually working on it? Was it before he had announced and before all the major like disinformation started, or kind of what spurred you on that one? Kind of like Iran with We Are Legion.
I just thought that lawsuit, it started with me just being really interested. I was interested in that Hulk Hogan Gawker lawsuit.
Yeah.
So I was just fascinated by that. I was like, well, what is...
I like to call it the Peter Thiel lawsuit.
Well, so this is before I knew about that. So this is before that began. So I was just like, well, this is weird. I mean, this is a sex tape, first of all. And if back, there's a lot of sex tapes back, like when this all came out, the Paris Hilton and all this stuff. And you could argue that in a sort of reality culture, just might not have been accidentally leaked or whatever. Like there's a whole...
Right. I definitely have heard some stories about that being, he knew it was there.
Right. And so anyway, so here's this lawsuit that's happening, and it's I just found that just really fascinating. How far, it's a free speech thing. How far can an organization like Gawker press, entity like Gawker? How far can they push it? Can they show a sex tape? Can they, if it's legitimately? So anyway. And you can make an interesting argument about that, and I was just kind of
the right to privacy. There's lots of arguments here.
There's legitimate sort of things on both sides. I mean, you can come down on one side or the other, but I found the kind of tension there.
That it was just a weapon against Gawker, and that there wasn't any reality on that side of it. They were using it to kill Gawker.
Yeah, and that's when it clicked in. So with the Peter Thiel revelation, I was like, oh no, wait a minute, this is totally different now. This is a completely different thing. To do that in secret, to actually fund Hulk Hogan's lawsuit in secret, so that nobody knew, that's weird. That, by the way, that used to be illegal.
Yeah.
To do that, and there was some lawsuits in the '60s that kind of reversed that. But for quite a long time, that was illegal to secretly, secretively either fund a person's lawsuit or to fund both sides of a lawsuit to keep it going, or to cause. To just interfere with an existing lawsuit in that way. So, but those have been overturned. Anyway, I was fascinated by this ability of someone like Peter Thiel, billionaire, and the power that someone like that has in order to operate in these kind of secretive ways in order to silence Gawker. That became a very different kind of.
$1 billion is argument. A lot of money.
It's an extraordinary amount of money. So it's the kind of it's money that you can't, an organization like Gawker can't stand up to. So then it becomes, what is the effect of billionaires' pressure on the press? How can a billionaire silence voices they don't like? So
yeah, I mean, and I wasn't a big fan of Gawker itself. I mean, it wasn't my type of news, and also Adrian Chen's a jackass. But I at the same time, it's kind of like the Weave case. Like it tells a similar story of you don't like this guy, but you definitely don't want that precedent being set. Like it sometimes you're fighting for the outcome of the case, not for the person it might help.
100%. So that's why I took it on. Not that it was easy, although once Peter Thiel got in there, it was a little easier conclusion for me to come to. I don't think that's the way our court system should be operated, or that's the way.
No, not at all. I mean but look at any major changes to how that works in the last 50 years. None of them were in the public's favor. They were all funded by lobbyists working for different groups to make sure that they could start doing this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that one, the people who really actually were kind of the brains behind the Heartland Foundation and everything else were behind a lot of those changes in the 60s that made it, lawsuits, honestly. I mean, you could sue anyone for anything at that point. And the money, the funding, like, that was all them. I mean, it's just... I don't trust any changes to that system in the last 50 years. I mean, I don't trust many before either, but, like, that specifically.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true. So I found that, and then it seemed like there was a couple of these stories all happening also while Trump is sort of on the march and clearly attacking the press and all sorts and saying he's going to open up libel laws and all this stuff. So that's what attracted me to the sort of other little chapter of that, which was the Sheldon Adelson, who just died, attacking the Las Vegas Review-Journal. And secretively buying in order to squash any negative coverage about him.
So this is the thing that I didn't mention to you beforehand, which I completely forgot because I normally mention it to people. In between last time we talked and now, I of course pandemic. I got sick. I was pretty bad off at the beginning of it, all the way back March, near the very beginning for us. I have oxygen intake issues, so I've been yawning since like noon. So when you see me yawning, it's like I literally am not getting enough oxygen.
Okay, cool. So don't take it personally.
Yeah. You are not boring me. This is one of my favorite interviews I've had in a while. I love it. I usually warn people beforehand that this is going to be happening. That I'm not tired at all. Like you can hear I'm wide awake. I can't stop the yawning. The chat's heard this 50 times. They all know. They're probably rolling their eyes at this point. But yeah. Oh God, now everyone in chat is yawning. Yes, obviously. Well, now I said it. This is now my life. I yawn all day. It's what happens. I don't get to control it. I want to get into any new projects you want to talk about. Is there anything that you are allowed to tell us you're working on, like by name, a documentary, a new Netflix series?
I can sort of say I'm not supposed to say names for sure. I wish I could actually. There's one series that really relates to what we're talking about. I'm working on a kind of anthology series that takes place in this sort of chaotic world of disinformation and deception online. And we're doing it in a way, we're sort of telling it through a series of characters and stuff. It's a little sort of Black Mirror-ish, but it's still a documentary. It's like a doc version of it.
Interesting.
But we've been playing with that and just having some fun with, just different people's viewpoints of something or active deception online. Just the way the internet has created this world where nothing is quite as it seems, or things are actively deceptive, and how that plays out in people's lives. I think I can say that much.
That's as far as you can go. Don't go any farther.
But it's probably somewhere in next fall or something. Hopefully it's out. We're doing pretty good on it. And then I'm working on another project that's more kind of raw political kind of thing. It's going to be out maybe a little sooner.
Okay. Another documentary?
One I can't really tell. Another series. Another
docu-series. Okay, cool.
Docu-series, another 5-part series,
Okay, so there's more content coming, everybody. We know the quality of it. We're all happy there. I wanna, we've got still a few minutes here. I wanna ask, after you did this film on Anonymous, the We Are Legion, the early stages of everything, and you tried to cover as best you could. Obviously, there are some gaps in the film because literally there were people who wouldn't talk, and there were some people who couldn't be named because of, well, honestly, statutes of limitations and whatnot. But, there was a lot of stuff in the way from some pieces of the story, right? But did you get any pushback? Like, was there... Like, you didn't have any, like, hacks happen to you, any threats happen to you from people who were mad about it in any way? Like, you anything?
No, not really.
That's awesome.
I mean, yeah, not really. I wasn't really. I mean, I think, I don't know, maybe just the way we approached it or something. I was just kind of wanted to get everybody positioned right. I mean, that's generally my thing. I just want, I may disagree with somebody, but I would be, I'm always sort of, I want to get their position correct. That's my, right? Like, if I interview you, you might, if you said later, like, oh, you're an asshole, you didn't get it, you're all wrong with the conclusion you came to.
Right.
That's fine. That's fine. But I'm always a little bit like, I don't think anybody's ever said this, but I would be devastated if someone said, like, oh, you got my position wrong. Like, that I feel like if I'm going to interview you, I'm going to work very hard to get to portray your position accurately.
You shoot enough film to find the truth in it. I tell you that.
Yeah, that's true. It's a lot of footage, but yeah.
I was still learning. I was still learning to be filmed when, like, you did that. So I had all the stupid questions, like, where am I looking? Am I? And then you had to tell me, no, you're on camera, not on me, and repeat the questions. Like, now, like, by the third one of those, like, I sit right down and I say, am I on you or the camera? Am I repeating your questions? Now I just have it all, like, are they going to hear you? Should they know you exist and who you are? Like, the like 10 things I've got to know before I start talking on a documentary, Yeah. But you were, I think, like the third documentary I ever did any filming for, and the first two were student documentary stuff.
Oh yeah.
So definitely not as professional.
Well, you're a natural. You were a natural, so it wasn't tough.
It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that whole time. I mean, I was also in Vegas at DEF CON, so, like, I was just in a good mood. Like, I mean, that was great. Like, wow. Yeah. And you mentioned it earlier, but, like, right after our first interview, I went out to dinner with Joseph Menn, because I had some more questions about the Aaron Barr stuff, because he's, a lot of people don't remember, he's the one who posted the news article to Financial Times that said Aaron Barr was going to give this document to the FBI on Monday, basically. I mean, it doesn't say that in those exact words, but it says Aaron Barr made a document, doxed Anons, and has a meeting with the FBI on Monday. He didn't say, and the meeting was for this, but, I mean, if you don't put that together, you're pretty dumb. Now, there's a lot of problems in our community with Joseph, because he's been a little problematic in interacting with some people in the community over the last decade, so it's tough to be friendly with him anymore. But I did enjoy back then those few things, because, like, we always had this thing with Anonymous where, and we talked about this, during the filming there, that we don't usually just say, that guy. Something happens where someone, like, stands up and raises their hand and says, look here, like Aaron did. He really asked for it. And that's, like, I mean, it's like, he said, I'm coming for you, and I'm doxing you to the feds. Like, what more could you expect out of a group of hackers than they've obliterated your company within 24 hours? Like,
right. It's true.
But, true. I mean, that was a fun
crazy
time.
Crazy times. Yeah, I forgot Joseph broke that story. That's right.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
A lot of other people, too, who are angry at him for a million things from the last decade, forget that as well. And I try to remind them, like, yeah, sure, he's done some problematic things lately, but the only reason I still respond to him now and then is because he's broken a lot of the shit that made us happy. Like, they don't even know about, like, Carnivore. Like, we hear all about Snowden and Prism, but Carnivore was doing a lot of that work, and Menn's the one who literally got into an AT&T closet that was full of the actual Carnivore servers before anyone knew this type of surveillance was current reality on the public PSTN network. Like, you know?
No, I think he's definitely been a huge investigative reporter in this space for forever. I mean, just
I wish people like that didn't continue
tenacious.
to turn out to be problematic. That really annoys me. That really annoys me. Too many people getting canceled. And so far I haven't seen any that didn't deserve it though. So, there we are. Yeah, so chat, we are reaching the hour point here. What do you guys want to hear about? There's a little lag there, of course, when I ask those questions, as people type things out.
About camping.
Question: would Mr. Nappenberger be interested in getting involved with the production of the Viceland script? Okay. Yeah. So, have you seen the script?
No.
So it leaked a few weeks ago. Someone wrote the story of Viceland. What happened with Vice, and Shane and Gavin kind of starting it, and Suresh starting it up as kids and on the streets in Toronto, like as a free giveaway, and all the way up to them having hundreds of thousands of or millions of readers and billions of dollars in their office in Brooklyn and everything, like the whole story told. And one of the interesting things about this script is pieces of it have been read to Gavin over the phone. And his response to the pieces that he was read, because they're very inflammatory, was that there were 3 people in that room. One of them spoke. Who the fuck was it? So the script is good.
Trying to nail the people that may have said something.
It just means the script is pretty damn good and well sourced. If that's his response.
I would love to read that. That's just online. I didn't
even in the chat you'll see the link, and don't question it. It is actually where it is at buttsex is the URL.
Sure,
buttse.cx. I'm not even fucking with you. That's literally the domain. If you go there, you download the PDF. It's the Viceland script, and it's fun. I've read it. I want this movie to exist. So the script itself ended up on the blacklist for last year. The blacklist. The 20 best scripts of the year that
don't get made.
Yeah. So it's on the list because it's understood that Viacom do not want this movie to get made, and so if you would like to work with Viacom in the future on any project of any kind, you won't make it. Is basically what we understand.
It does sound interesting, though. It does sound interesting. I met Gavin one time a long time ago, long before this Proud Boys nonsense, and I could say that I just hated that guy, and
it's the right response to Gavin.
I mean, honest to God, I really hated him from the beginning, and he was making I was a juror at a festival, documentary festival, and as a juror you have to watch 10 films in 2 or 3 days, and it's just
binge.
And early on, he had made a film that he was being a stand-up comedian, right? This was his thing. He had gone through Vice or whatever, did the buyout or whatever, and he was going to become a stand-up comedian, and he was going to go on the road with his buddy, and they were going to go do the stand-up comedy. And it wasn't funny for one word for the entire documentary. Not a single not a single laugh in the documentary. It was just annoying, and it was still at a point where I just morally I was like, I have to watch every minute of every documentary to be a good juror. I still had that going.
Yeah.
Before I realized, no, if it's a Gavin,
this is trash.
This is the one that broke me of this. No, if it's that bad,
wow,
I don't have to watch it. I don't have to spend my life watching it. But it's because it was so horrible. And he afterwards tried to do a stand-up thing at the screening, and it was just
flat.
Awful. It wasn't just flat. It was just horrible. He was trying to be offensive, but actually. And funny, but was just offensive and not funny.
So he was trying to be Anthony Jeselnik, but
he's not a comedian. He's not a funny guy.
Yeah.
He's just a jerk. And so
yes.
And anyway, this was all before he revealed,
You should read the script.
Exactly how bad
it says some funny things, and with your interest in the disinformation and all that, one of the things that's really interesting in this script that we learn, and I say we learn because so much of it has been proven to be true that I think maybe this part is too. Shane in this script comes off as someone who set Gavin up on purpose to meet these far right-wingers in a way where he might end up on stage with them at their private event. And Shane orchestrated that to happen. And by the end of it, Gavin's just running the group and giving them a name and taking over. That's what Shane wanted, so he could then get him out of the company. And in the script, that comes across very clearly.
You think that's true? Isn't the timing kind of off there?
No,
Gavin was out a long time ago, right?
Yeah, but he was already with those people before that. Yeah, though the timing is spot on, and it makes a lot of sense with a lot of the other things we already knew about the founding and how he got to that side of things, and what pushed him sort of over the edge when his friends kind of dumped him. So I think you'll love the script. It's one of those where I read it, and it tells a horrible story of a bunch of bastards, but it's a movie I would watch. I would watch this movie. You know?
Right.
And I don't think it's going to get made. However, if you love it and you know someone who is willing to take that risk, take a look.
No, it sounds interesting.
It's on spec, so.
Yeah. No, I'd read it. There's like 3 or 4 films being made about Gawker. And the whole Gawker thing. That hasn't quite, I don't think any of them have really surfaced yet, but.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like 3 films being made about GameStop.
I know. I was involved with one of them a couple weeks ago because Deep Fucking Value lives half an hour from me, and one of the filmmakers called me up and said no one can get him to respond now that he's going to go in front of the House committee, and we have a thing we're working on. Could you like go to his house? To which I shared the tweet with them that he had literally left town that morning on a plane to Denver. So, like, there would be no point for me getting in a car and going to his house. But, yeah, they were after him that hard that I got a call from a filmmaker asking me to drive to this guy's house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Some things, for me, it's like, it's really got to resonate, right? It's really got to point to something bigger. And, for me to really dive into that. And I think... like the GameStop, I'm not 100% sure we know that whole story or anything yet. I mean, we've talked about it a lot. We actually had William Legate on, who you might know as working with David Hogg now on a pillow company to fight My Pillow. Right.
He was on the week before that announcement to teach us all what was really happening there. Not in terms of like we knew all the players that maybe were doing something. But to teach us what the short squeeze was, what was going on with the stock, why it had gone up, all that, why people should or shouldn't hold. He explained diamond hands to everyone. Did you think about like when this all hit? Did you like have that I should do a documentary, or did you instantly know there's already 500 in the works?
My sense was it's overblown, and it's hard. It's just hard to see what who the characters are and what the bigger picture is, and there was a clear. I mean, if the story is like taking on the big short sellers and the big hedge funds and stuff, then if that's legitimately the story, there may be something in there worth doing. But as a film, I mean, picture it as a film. I think these are going to be.
I think they're going to be flops. Yeah.
Some boring movies. Yeah.
Right.
And I don't quite know what the big picture thing is, or if anybody quite does yet. So,
well, as someone who's actually made like a documentary that was fun to watch, and it was about the internet and doing shit on websites and whatnot. Yeah. Like, I mean, you also covered a lot of the real life stuff we did, but like, how hard it is to like get something that's just chat on a screen to look good to an audience, a general audience. Like the South by audience, like them specifically, like getting that stuff across is. I've done a lot of work on that now since we worked back then, and like it's complicated. So this one's going to be a tough one. But you saw today that it's already up.
I saw again. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if Chad has been paying attention since it's been a week, but GME went back up to 158 or something like in after hours now. Yeah. It's skyrocketing. Yeah. So everyone who held all the way down to like below 50 and still has it again can get the fuck out. With a profit.
This time, leave.
Yeah.
Right.
Ugh.
Crazy. So fascinating.
Chat is asking what you think or know about Phineas Fisher.
Not that much.
Not that much?
Yeah. Phineas Fisher, yeah.
Okay.
They probably know more than I do.
I mean, fair enough. And then another question is, have you ever chatted with Snowden?
I have. Yes, I have. Indirectly, yes, I have. Because, what am I supposed to say? I'm actually thinking of interviewing him soon for a different project.
For a different, don't say anything you're not supposed to.
Yeah. So, yes and no. Not directly but I might be interviewing him soon, I think.
Nice.
There's a cause from the thing that we're working on. There's a cause to interview him.
Thanks for all the subs there. Look at that. Everyone is suddenly subbed. I love it. Those subs, again, as I've told everyone on chat a million times, that's how I get fed. So please subscribe and follow and all the other fun stuff. Doxy, I love you. Let's see here. All kinds of Gavin comments, which are very welcome. Because, fuck that guy.
What are they saying? I gotta check this out.
I'm guessing Gavin is the one who spoke. He's a whore for any publicity.
Brian, shoe on head. You're trying to get me to do a Adrian Chen thing there.
I mean, we got a lot of people to do shoe on head. A lot of guests have done shoe on head. So if you wanted to, it's a thing.
I want to wait on that one.
Right. Alex didn't do it last week either. I guess the next
we're like pro, legit. We're legit. We're too legit.
You can't have that out there. You're not Adrian Chen. I wonder if I say him enough times in this one, I'll get a message from him tomorrow. Ugh. What else? So what else do you got for us, chat?
You're gonna Photoshop a shoe on my head.
Yeah, they're gonna do it anyways. Right. Yeah, we did ask about Phineas. Any of the more recent hacks like that, like the parlor hack, we talked about that a little right before going on air. A couple of the people involved in, hack is such a strong word for what really happened. Right. It's a data dump, but it was a scrape and a few other pieces. It's just, you don't think Parler's going to survive? Is that as I understand it?
Here's what I think, and this is just my opinion, but first of all, it's such an awful site. It's such an awful thing in general. So I guess that's part of it. But even if you set that aside, if you think about a social media company or something, it's like you kind of have a window, right? You have a little bit of a window where people could sign up and people could get on it, and if it catches. Then they're interested in it, and then they have this kind of investment in it, and their friends are there and all that stuff. So, it faltered so badly so early, and we were talking about how they were sort of caught, with their pants down, with their pants down, with a lack of security. So, there's a real lack of trust there. I don't know. It's hard to game out the group of kind of alt-righters that I'm just not fans of at all, and Trump thing. But what if they would have signed Trump or something earlier? If he would have been not signed him, but if he would have been on it, maybe there would have been enough momentum. But I don't know. It feels like the wave is gone on that. There's name recognition, right? But it's hard to imagine Parler hanging in there for me. I could be totally wrong. In 2 or 3 years, you can come back and say nope. It's
they got up to millions of users, but active was a lot lower. But yeah, their security was trash, and when they got kicked off of systems that made scaling easy, even though they were still failing at it. They're in trouble. The app, you can get back in now, but it's unusable. It's unusable. So for me, my experience was. Katana got on and got verified, and I got invited over, and I came in, and I actually talked to John Matze a couple times, as they were onboarding me, and literally by the time I had an account that was operational, my first death threat was already waiting for me. As a lefty, it was 3 or 4 a day on average, which I thought was kind of low because other people I knew were getting more.
Who wants to hang out there? That's just awful.
It was fun to piss them off at that point, but only for that reason.
Entertainment value.
Yeah, only for entertainment value. There was nothing else there for me. There was no.
It's hard to imagine. I don't know. I don't know how that stays alive. And also, by the way, it's just hilarious that basically the point of it really, I don't know, that I gather is that these people have said things that are so awful. They've been kicked off of other sites that they won't stop lying. They claim the free speech thing about the Twitter and all this stuff, which there's a legitimate argument in there at some, there's lots to talk about in social media companies and big platforms, and whether that, because that's where we all meet now, and that's where we all talk, and that's the new public square, and it's owned by a private company. There's all that, but this seems like a different kind of version of that, where it's you're censoring me. because I'm saying, but it's a version of what Weave was saying. Like you're
Well,
censoring
yeah.
me because
Again, you end up with the paradox of tolerance, which is always where we end up with these arguments. At some point, these people are lying on purpose. They know they're lying on purpose. They're doing it as a grift. They are getting money by building this group of people who are they specifically dumbing down through the misinformation they are feeding them, just to continue to profit off of them. And no, they do not deserve that speech being on any private platform.
Yeah, but then all these people get on there, and what if Milo got kicked off right away?
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's like,
yeah.
Wait a minute, what are you guys about again?
We're the new public commons in Milo's band.
Yes, and then I heard some interview with the was it the CEO? I'm forgetting his name. Where
John Matze?
Oh, right. Sorry, yeah.
Not anymore. He got fired.
Right, but it was like, how are you going to deal with difficult comments? It's like, well, we're going to do some bots. We're going to create some bots and some AI about it. Like, you guys are such idiots. I have a very hard time.
That's the bigger question, though, right? Like,
going anywhere.
If you ever get on this subject in any way, the one problem that I have with this that I'm still struggling to wrap my head around to this day is, we see this big fight with possibly break up Facebook, possibly break up even Twitter at some point. They're just too large and in too much power. Now, Facebook more than Twitter, obviously. Twitter's kind of stayed focused on its one thing. Facebook does a million things now. But over on Facebook, there's a building, like it's multiple floors of a building with many human beings in it who do not generate money. They generate no cash for this company. They are only a money hole. And they moderate. And they cycled through so many people there that can't handle the PTSD they get from the stuff they have to moderate on that platform. Yeah. And so you end up with this weird situation where the amount of moderation that type of a platform needs is so expensive that only a company at that size can afford an entire office building full of people who are getting paid that generate no cash. So if you want that type of a platform to be moderated properly, then it has to get to a size where they can moderate it properly. Or, but you don't want that platform in the first place to get that big, so maybe it's not needed. Like, there's this whole discussion where I keep going to, how do you have a moderation team of humans involved? You can bot some of it. Obviously, there's bad words lists, there's certain topics, there's URLs you can ban. But for the most part, you need humans involved in some of this. How do you afford that when it makes no money?
Yeah. I mean, it's a huge thing. And, Casey Newton did a lot of reporting on this for Vox about the way they outsource some of that and some of those, those horrific places like Arizona and stuff where people are treated so badly. And they're all getting more and more radicalized too and conspiratorial.
Because you can't consume that much bad stuff and not have it affect you.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm hopeful. I'm somewhat hopeful that more, even back than when we, 10 years ago or whatever, like, I'm somewhat hopeful that the overall attitude is shifting of the average person doesn't necessarily trust these big companies the same way. We don't have that same utopian notion that the big tech companies are going to come in and save us, that they're going to figure it out and they got our best interests at heart. I don't think the average person thinks that anymore. So, that's a good thing. That's a good thing that we're at least inching towards this. I think inching. I think it's, to me, it seems glacial. Like we should be more aggressive, questioning some of these giant companies that are monopolized, these spaces. But there's more questions.
Could you publicly fund moderation in a way that then people didn't feel was influenced by political lobbying?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you could. Well, maybe you could get away with it and it would be real, but I don't think it would ever be trusted as being, authentic and unbiased.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I find that the hardest part of the conversation for me because monopoly bad, Facebook very bad. But then if you're gonna have platforms with that kind of chat and that kind of connection and the ability to build events around your friends and and you start putting any of these pieces together, you need paid employees to moderate. And so I've always wondered, just like in that discussion, that's where I see the one point to having something large enough that can afford that. And I still don't want it to exist though. So that's where I'm conflicted.
I know it's tricky territory. We're not, and we're still. I mean, we've just been hit by this tsunami, and we're still trying to figure out which end is up, what buildings are still standing. We don't know the way out of this yet. But you know,
people in the chat are talking about the Fediverse and federated services and whatnot, and maybe that's it. But that's gonna take it getting to a level where using federated services like that are so easy and so prevalent and so well understood that my mom figures it out, and there aren't many federated services yet that that's the case with. So I hope a lot more development goes on there, because in the end that would be really cool. Yeah.
It's back to the same questions, Yeah. How do we this internet that was so sort of wonderful brought so much, it has so much, it's the great invention of our lifetimes, and how does it, this sort of dark side that people weren't adequately prepared for, and how do we get through it and get what's beneficial to us, and understand what else it's doing to us at the same time.
So we have a movie night with the fans every week on Sunday night. We all watch various movies. Sometimes we'll theme them. There's different services, like even Amazon now lets you party watch with friends, like for anyone who's on Prime and all that. Do you have a documentary recommendation for us?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Right?
That's one of those overloaded things where I have to think about.
To put you on the spot.
Something recent? Something maybe recent, or what?
Just doesn't matter. What's your favorite documentary out there? Music, movies, TV, tech related, rights. I don't care. What's something you think we haven't seen that we should see? Especially since you judged, what have we missed?
Yeah, I've seen a lot recently. That's the thing.
I know. It's a hard question.
It is a hard question. Oh my God, can I
absolutely, you
this
get
on
back
Twitter or something?
Yes, absolutely. Get back to me. I'm gonna put it in the chat. I'm gonna put it. I'm gonna retweet it. But get back to me with the thing we should watch one of these upcoming weekends with our movie night.
Okay, I'll come up with something good.
Yeah, give us that content.
I think the pandemic, a lot of things came out that I feel like are pretty good. I've seen some good stuff that just haven't really gotten any reach or any play at all, because it's the weird way movies have come out this year.
The next one we do, I really want to do a music one. Like I want a lot of people to see some of my favorite music documentaries. Like Sound City is still one of my favorite things I've ever watched. Yeah. That's such a good documentary.
Yeah.
I love it. Well shot, the theming, Rick Springfield crying, all of it, like just the way it works, like the way it's put together, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Give that to us later. Let's see. Ask for healthcare workers shout out. Healthcare workers shout out. Oh my
God! Thanks so much for healthcare workers.
Right.
I can't even believe it. I was by the vaccination place the other day and just looking, and it's just. Here's what we should take away from this whole pandemic: is who's important in the society,
right?
And who's sort of freeloading, right? And to step
billionaires,
up, right? And to really step up at a time when your health is at risk, and for virtually no money and not that much credit. It's just it's so thankless, and we need this stuff so badly that it really is moving. It is, and this, for our entire society to shut down like this and to realize, I hope we walk away from this with a sort of new sense of what's important and what jobs are important and who and how to treat our fellow human beings. I really do. It's a choice we can make. This is we're gonna remember this for the rest of our lives. So we can go internal with it and try to figure out how are we better as a society. And I think looking at people that put themselves on the front line and at their own risk to their health, it's just you can't say enough about it.
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing that I will say about it, though, is that everyone involved on the front line, including teachers, need to be paid according to their worth to society here, and they are not even close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Teachers. 100%. It's and why they're not at the front of the lines for the vaccines and stuff. I mean, it's just
everything about it's crazy. I'm a year out from getting it because I'm in Massachusetts and they're flubbing the rollout hard. So yeah, it'll be a while before I get one. Yeah, but or well, my family, I mean. But yeah, I already had the thing. Who knows? I mean, I might need protection from some of the other strains, but they've said that like you don't get them, so we'll see. You know. That's the show tonight. I wanna go out with one of these for Myanmar right there. You know, come on, do it. There you go. You got it. You know, internet freedom, freedom of people. The coup is bullshit. There's a lot of problems over there right now, and just like way back when, you know, a lot of our side of things and people you talked to for the old documentary are sitting in places helping. So, you know, all that fun stuff you learned about back then is going on right now. Yeah, it's good stuff. So, this was awesome. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks a lot for having me. This is fun. Good to chat again, man.
All right, chat. We are going out. This is the end. I mean, I would say you have anything to plug, but I mean, we know that you're working on some projects that you can't talk about. So go watch all the old ones though. If you haven't seen Internet's Own Boy, We Are Legion, Nobody Speak, just any of them. Like everything he's done is amazing. And I'm not even kissing ass. Like I just actually love your work. So
thank you. Thanks.
You know, yeah, everyone. All right. Good night. We're out.
Thank you very much. Thanks, man.
Where is the... There we go.